Welcome back, Soulful Society, to Soulful of Wellness,
the multi-generational podcast brought to you by two functional imperfectionists
and certified coaches
who deliver tips to live your most authentic and balanced life. 20% of Americans experience seasonal affective disorder, commonly called SAD, which is a type of depression that is associated with changes in the seasons, aka winter. In today's episode, you're going to learn a little about our personal experience with SAD and feeling, sad, a little down, dreary, listless, that uncomfortable ennui that comes this time of year.
If you're feeling any of the above feelings, we welcome you to today's episode where we will go over how to rebalance, re-energize, and uplift your vibe. All right, so before we get into the tips that you well deserve, let's chat for a little bit about seasonal affective disorder itself. Obviously, we know that it's seasonal depression gets triggered by the change in seasons, particularly winter. This is for the people who succumb to the winter blues and who just feel like their vibe is a little bit lower during these seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I know I do.
I think last year was a little different with everything going on. I went into winter so strong and I was having all that outdoor time because all of the things that I would normally do indoors, I was trying as much as we could do them outdoors. And it really helped. This year, I am right back to square one. And in fact, just this past weekend, so very beginning of February, I was feeling that all too common malaise where I just felt so flat and that low-key depressed, but I knew nothing was wrong. So I had a little self-talk where I tried to do the like pull myself up by the bootstraps. Spoiler alert, it didn't really work. But I tried to say, nothing is wrong with you. You're not being grateful. You're feeling bored with your life. That was me, like honestly mocking myself and kind of, I wasn't being not nice, but I was trying to use a little humor with myself to snap myself out of it. But it is a very real thing. So I dove in and I thought, what is different from last year when I didn't really get my seasonal affect disorder, but very similar to all the prior years before that? And I realized I have not seen the sun in a month. We've had a crazy cold and mixed winter weather in the DMV this year, all of January, all of it, the whole thing.
Just miserable.
Yeah. So that's like the one biggest thing.
Okay. So the sun was missing from your life, you felt like.
Missing completely.
The world of a difference. I mean, we know all of the, like, not only good vibes is what the sun brings, but there are so many positives from the sun that it is quite depressing. Where those of us who live East Coast, Midwest, we are more prone to not getting the sun as much in the winter. Like, that's just where we live. And it kind of feels like you're trapped almost.
It does. It's not a snap yourself out of it situation.
No.
It's a very real from deep inside flatness for me. It just feels flat.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And I start thinking, oh, I can't wait for spring. How many weeks until we change the clocks? And I looked and I realized I can't wait that long. I'm not going to wait this out. I don't want to feel like this for that long.
Yeah. And we did a winter wellness episode last year, mainly to help with trying to come up with different ideas to make ourselves feel better and to try and not snap out of SAD, but maybe gain more equilibrium in our mind and bodies. And that was helpful. But, you know, sometimes you just need to sit there and accept the current reality and say, you know what? Like, this is very real. This is a real experience I'm having. It's frustrating that nothing in particular prompted it, but this is an actual disorder that affects millions of not only Americans, but people in the world.
You're right about us taking that proactive approach a year ago.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know why I don't remember these things. I always think, oh, this worked, I'm going to do it again. And then we didn't take that proactive approach this year. And I just kind of hoped all the things I did that worked would carry forward. And of course, you get lucky sometimes and they do, but most of the time without that conscious effort and a little planning, they don't. And they didn't this year. And now I'm in that funk and I'm really having to consciously take steps to change the little bit of things I can in my life.
Yeah.
The number one for me personally being to get outside, to see the sun, and to just be outside. I can't even say in nature because some of the time I'm outside, and I just started this week, but the time outside, like, I don't even know if you can count it as in nature. I'm in a city, Bethesda, Maryland, and any of you have been there, I don't think anybody calls that nature, but it helps.
In the city in DC, I'm
Yeah.
25 minutes away from you, and it's brutal, you guys. It is brutal. And if you listen to last week's episode, you know that one of my main goals has been to leave my apartment 3 days during the week. And I did it last week. I hit my goal and it definitely is helpful. But I think the theme is like that intentionality behind it. But like, those of you in Chicago, obviously you can't just go outside. Some days it's negative 10 degrees. That's hard.
Yeah, and you get blown over.
Yes, it's like a legitimate hazard.
Right. The biggest thing that I know will work for me is to get that outside time. So right now I'm trying to do 15 minutes outside each day.
Ooh, that's manageable.
Right. I don't love the cold, but I bundle up for it. If I'm walking for those 15 minutes, all the better. But even if I'm just sitting outside, as long as my eyes are open, I feel like the sunlight's going in through my pupils and into my body. And maybe part of it's a little placebo effect because I am thinking about that happening and I'm thinking of this healing sunlight entering my body and going in and doing its thing.
I think it's more than placebo effect. I really do. I think it is like, because if I reflect back on how often I was just sitting in my apartment for days on end, like that's really bad for you as a human. Like that's really bad for your wellness, not to get some sort of fresh air, let alone sunlight. But like, it's not always that enticing to go outside right now when it's gray and windy. It hurts.
And last weekend I had time, but it was so cold.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to. And I have to remember, well, okay, I don't want to go and feel the sting of that cold on my face, but I also don't want to feel these winter blues. So I got to pick something.
Remember when we coined it winter grays?
Yes, which is really, really appropriate. We've had so many gray days so far this year here. And I'm not trying to whine about it because it just is the reality. This January, I don't know. This is the coldest one I remember in a while. And I just feel like, okay, I already had my struggles. You don't need to give me more hurdles here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my strategy with dealing with the winter grays, I love to travel. I like escapism. I'm like, when can I get down to Florida? I need to get out of here. I have a few close people in my life who did an amazing thing that I just think is so fantastic. They were able to finesse living in Florida to skip winter and come back to the DC area in a few months. And I just find that so admirable. Obviously, not everyone's situation can allow for that. But my whole thing is, when am I traveling next? When am I going somewhere warm? Because I build up all this resentment mainly towards winter winds.
I'm still sitting here smiling about how you have friends who are snowbirds decades early.
Yes, it's awesome.
Leave it to millennials who decide to be snowbirds in their 20s and early 30s. I love that for you guys.
Well, now with COVID, it's really opened up that opportunity.
Right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
To work remotely,
Yep.
it makes so much sense. See, you guys, if I got to hand you, well, a lot of things, but right now I hand you thinking outside the box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting creative. All right. So what are some other creative ways that we can get through winter? Because we've identified that sad is a very real thing. We've identified it's valid to not know where your funk is coming from. And we've also validated it's really good to get outside of your space, of your home, and to get physically outdoors when possible.
The best thing you can do to stave off, or if you let it get to my situation, help get out of these seasonal affective blues, grays,
Mhm.
is to rebalance the areas of your life. So check in. How is everything else? Because they all pervade each other. How's the sleep hygiene? I need to crack down with myself a little about the routine of my sleep. I've been doing okay with average quantity, but it's not balanced. There are about 4 nights a week where it's about 2 hours under what it should be. And then there's 3 nights a week where it's 2 or 3 hours over that. So into a really good range. I got to balance it out.
Sleep hygiene is so challenging.
I know.
If it were up to me in a perfect world, I would go to bed at 10 p.m. on the dot every night. And no, what do I find myself doing? Is JC and I roll right into the next episode of our show because we like it. It's cozy, it's fun, it's entertaining, and it's revenge bedtime procrastination.
No, it's so true because I argue that I have extraordinarily long biorhythmic cycles. And I don't know if that's actually even a thing, but that's how I think of it because I don't feel really tired at 10 p.m. or even 11 p.m. or really even midnight. Left to my own devices, I think I would stay awake for a good 16 hours and then sleep for 9 or 10 and then be awake for the next 16. But life doesn't work like that. The world doesn't work with me on that one.
Well, like we learned in our sloth episode, it's perfectly okay that you stay up that late if you were allowed to sleep in,
Uh-huh.
which life doesn't allow, which is so
No.
annoying. So going with the flow. So sleep hygiene is super important. It's really going to impact your mood the next day. So the things that we're going to go over are really all things that are going to impact your mood and help re-energize you and rebalance your energy.
Do a little self-emotional check-in. Are you holding something in? Are you pressing something down? Because that'll come back to bite you.
Mm-hmm.
You can only press for so long before the pressure builds and it bursts out.
Right. Like the hardest lessons I've learned in therapy is having to look the truth in the eye or have someone sit across from you and tell you a hard truth. In the end, if you get real with yourself, it's going to be the most helpful thing, the most rewarding thing, even though it can be pretty painful to face the truth.
So well said. The thing that you're like, yeah, I don't really want to talk about that, or I don't really want to think about that. That's the thing.
That's the exact thing that you need to look at.
Uh-huh.
Yep. As we know, holding in emotions can really make you sick. It can make you physically ill, and it can really impact your mood for the long term.
Yeah, it depletes your energy.
Exactly. It's an energy vampire.
Yes, it is.
Another energy vampire would be if you're holding on to any negative emotions or situations. So this is, pretty similar, right? Just like taking like an examination of current state of affairs. Is there a conflict that is unresolved in your life?
You can kind of table something for a while and get away with it. And then you're like, okay, well, maybe it'll just disappear. Maybe it'll just go away. Maybe we don't ever need to debrief about it.
Right.
But usually resurfaces.
Right. I'm going to rattle off some energy takers before we get into how to shift your energy. So we went over inconsistent sleep, focusing on the past, junk food. Always good in moderation, though, guys. It's totally fine. Negativity, mess and clutter, overworking, no physical movement, too much screen time, dehydration. Have an entire episode on that. Stress, too much alcohol, some fear and resentment. These are all things that can shift your vibe for the negative and take your energy away.
We have that episode on decluttering. There's emotional clutter and there's physical clutter. Physical clutter is probably the easier one to tackle. But when you can look out at a clean and organized environment, it can bring a real sense of peace that now sets a new tone for you that can then pervade all the other seemingly chaotic areas of your life.
Yes. So the first step into changing your vibe is taking inventory of like how you're feeling, accepting your feelings, and then looking at the places in your life that are zapping your energy away. If you suffer from sad and it's wintertime, that's something that is so out of your control. We want to control the controllables.
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at what gives us energy. Sunlight. I mean, you could purchase a sad lamp, but I got to be honest, I never use mine.
I know.
It's just not in my routine or my habit. So let us know. Email us at sfowpodcast@gmail.com if you found success with your sad lamp and you think that we should suck it up and try and add that to our routine.
Yes.
Energy givers. We went over sunlight. Okay. Dance, love this. Whole foods, yes. Hydration, consistent sleep pattern, nature, music, movement, resting, fresh air, decluttering, and future planning. All right, so these ones are interesting, right? Because the energy givers, there's a few on here that are out of our control, and then most of them are in our control. We can dance more, we can eat more whole foods and hydrate, listen to music, and move our bodies. I think that the biggest game changer for me this winter is hopefully going to be my movement routine and schedule. Just trying to actively move my body more, I'm hoping is going to give me more of those happy neurotransmitters to try and mitigate the symptoms of sad.
Was our hydration episode just a week ago?
No, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay, I thought so because I've still been on my hydration plan. So ever since the week before that episode came out, when I started my little experiment, every single morning, the first thing I've done is 16 ounces of water.
Love it.
I'm still going strong with that one.
Oh, we love that. So
yes.
Hydration, you can learn all about it on our episode. We learned some really interesting things I had no idea about.
Mm-hmm.
And
me too.
Spoiler alert, it can really improve your mood. Just hydration. Very simple.
Yeah.
Eating real whole foods. Eating healthy is a game changer as well. What eating healthy means to me is just cooking more than I'm getting takeout, because I find that my body vibes the best with that. So figure out what real whole foods you really enjoy and just try to make an effort to cook more. It'll really change your mood and your vibe.
Are you listening to music? I mean, everyone has Spotify at this point in their lives, right? Even I have Spotify, and I have the most random Spotify list. I only have one because all the songs I love are in it. And if you looked at it, you'd say, what is the linking criteria here? Because it's certainly not time span. It's certainly not genre. So the only link is they're all songs I love.
Right.
But I can play that list and know that every single song that comes on, I go, oh my gosh, I love this song.
Aww.
I already know I made the list. I already know I love every song. But every song that starts, I'm like, oh, I love this song. It's the best.
I mean, that's such a good point too, because I feel like in my morning routine, I listen to a podcast, and then throughout the day, I'm on my laptop or working or doing other things. And like music is one of my favorite things in the entire world. So I'd love to be more intentional about that. That's a really good one to transport yourself and your vibe.
Mm-hmm. We always talk in coaching and on the podcast about making small changes one at a time.
Yeah, so it's about picking one thing, and then once that's genuinely come a part of your routine and you feel like you can handle something else, then it's the next. So for you, Kit, it was hydration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You really started to vibe with that. It became a part of your routine. And then it became going outside and going on walks. And now if you're feeling like you can add something else, it would be sleep. For me, it's been leaving the apartment 3 times a week. And again, this is something new, but it was a huge shift for me to be intentional about it. And then 2, movement. I've been moving my body a lot more than than I have been in the past or in recent times. So that's what I'm good with right now. And like, then you'll start to see sustainable change. We always talk about that. It's all about the little things. So just pick one thing from today's episode for whatever resonated and go with that and let us know how it's going. If this episode in particular resonated with you, share with a friend who you might think could also use this particular dose of wellness.
Thank you for joining us again this week. We always love talking with you about feeling soulful, being well, and this crazy journey of life. We look forward to seeing you again next week for our 100th episode and revealing our new cover art.
Yay!
So excited for that.
Woo!
Yeah.
If you haven't already, please hit that plus button to subscribe/follow us. We would so appreciate that. And if not, if you're already following us, thank you. Please, please, please leave us a review. Till next week, see you for our 100th episode. Peace, love, and light.
Peace, love, and light.
The Soulful of Wellness hosts are certified health and wellness coaches. This podcast is intended to inform and entertain listeners on their wellness journey. This podcast is meant to enhance, not replace, listeners' care from doctors, therapists, or other medical providers. Soulful.